Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. I'm here to talk about Roger Collins a bit. Roger in the beginning, more specifically, when you look at that character, you look at his, I want to say, I don't know if it's hatred. He doesn't really want strangers coming into Collinwood. And this means Victoria Winters. Elizabeth, obviously, as we all know, hires Victoria Winters to be to governess, tutor, and companion to her nephew David Collins. She feels he needs the help, and yes, he does. Um, Roger is of the feeling of the conversation or argument that they're having in the drawing room. They can handle this matter themselves. Liz does not feel so. She doesn't feel that's accurate. But she also has her ulterior motive. She wants this woman here, Victoria Winters. She answers very little questions about Victoria Winters. Anytime Roger brings her up, um, she puts it on him, and he follows suit. And you got to understand the reason Roger follows suit is and this is what I love about the character of Elizabeth, played by Joan Bennett. She holds all the cards, and Joan plays like she holds all the cards. Roger, I will kick you out of this house. You can leave, but David stays. This is what prevents Roger Collins really from doing anything to get his son out of the house. Because with Roger wants to send him off to a boarding school. He wants to get him out of the house, um, primarily because he doesn't want to take any real responsibility for his own son. He's very much, to a degree, unless it's about discipline, an absentee father. Is he an abusive father? Well, that's that's another that's an interesting conversation. So, is Roger abusive? I think to David Collins, Roger is abusive, to answer that question. Um, I think Roger could be abusive to David at times. Now, they don't show that specifically, to a degree where it's, well, Roger does hit him across the face, if I remember. There's a smack. Um, but it's, you've accused me one too many times of this or that or murder. And Roger was almost a victim of murder himself with David removing the bleeder valve. Where Roger and David's relationship doesn't begin to change at all, because with the addition of Victoria Winters, Vicky is trying to reach David. I would say there's sort of a small, somewhat weird alliance formed between Roger and David. Roger doesn't want Victoria Winters there, though he makes the claim that he's the one who sent for her, but yet he's the one who keeps telling her to go home. That Roger, well, when I say sent for her, Elizabeth sent for her. Roger is the one that recommended uh, Victoria to Liz. At least that's the story they're telling of Victoria Winters, which is not true. Roger never heard of the girl. In fact, this is one of the most interesting conversations between Elizabeth and Roger. But after Roger's accident, he says, Miss Winters is beginning to ask too many questions. I want you to say she was recommended to you. You told me to hire. And he kind of like chuckles, like, I did no such thing, though. He goes, okay, but you tell me the real reason why I'm doing this. Like, why this charade? Like, he doesn't get, and I agree with him. Actually, this is where, as an audience member, you kind of agree with Roger, where it's like, hey, He's right. He didn't do all this, but yet you're asking him to say he did. And he does come up with one of the most convenient lies you've ever heard in a soap, because he tells Miss Winters, well, you know, the orphanage relies on donations and sponsors. Well, one of the sponsors, who wished to remain anonymous, recommended you. It's so smooth. And because Vicky's fallback is, well, Miss Hopewell didn't know. He goes, Mrs. Hopewell doesn't know every sponsor in that whatever. Which, is that a bad bluff? I don't know. When he says every sponsor, basically he's meaning every person. Like, he doesn't, because people might not always like want to be identified, or but I feel this is a bad bluff. But Vicky swallows it though too. Um, so there is that. Roger, I've said he's abusive toward David. I will say that when you look at their father-son dynamic and them sort of kind of teaming up in a weird way against Victoria Winters, now they don't actually. What they do here is, when I say team up, is it much of a team up? Not necessarily. It's not like they're like Roger's going to hurt her. Um, David, who gets accused of uh, removing the bleeder valve by Victoria Winters because she found the bleeder valve in his. Roger Roger uh, has a lot of reactions to this. He's upset. He's like, why should I not? I'm not surprised, really. He goes, my own son tried to murder me. Roger, you Elizabeth, don't act like he's not capable. And I do think, which, when you see character differences between a brother and sister, I'm not meaning just their sex. I'm meaning their. Elizabeth wants to see the good in David. Elizabeth thinks David can change and can be brought around. Roger is not of that mindset. And it's a lot of reason it's because Roger doesn't want to be of that mindset either. So when Roger scares Victoria Winters, when David locks her in the West Wing, he says, go home, in a ghostly voice, uh, and takes the broom across the door. Then he unlocks it and pretends to be the hero. Oh, I found you. And Elizabeth kind of questions about this. He goes, how did you know to look there? He goes, oh, something in the way he said it. He goes, Liz is like, okay. Like, Liz is it's like, all right. Um, Roger, does Roger believe in ghosts? At times it's seeing is believing, and sometimes he still doesn't believe what he sees. It has to really hit him in the face to, okay, someone else's life is in danger by the supernatural as well. It's, yes, there is a combination of seeing is believing, but where, for example, later on in 1897, when David and Amy's life is in danger, they're possessed, he says, we'll be back, and he has seen what Quentin has shown him. um, he doesn't believe in the ghost of Bill Malloy when his own son says, I saw the ghost of Bill Malloy, and he's just annoyed by it. But when Matthew Morgan's heart has his heart attack by supernatural ghost, he he does deny things, but Burke kind of makes him look at it. He goes, he was alone in that house. We didn't do that to him. You don't find it suspicious. So Burke is kind of raising eyebrows. Okay, maybe this place is haunted. Things seem to happen here. They always do. And Burke says, well, the coroner said it was a heart attack. So, yeah, Roger says the coroner says it was a heart attack. Sorry. What I like most about Roger in these episodes is his idle curiosity toward his sister. about Victoria Winters at times. It's like, okay, you want me to lie for you. You don't want to explain to me why you're lying to me. That's my business, she tells him. I like this because it creates a tension between Roger and Liz, and Roger can do nothing about it. You can make a character feel helpless without hurting the character. See Liz and Roger. They are the prime example. It doesn't hurt Roger's character. Roger's like, "Oh, okay. Okay, because the way Lewis Edmonds does this too, what I love most is it's almost like he's saying, okay, okay, I'll bite my tongue on this, but not for long. Right? There's that undertone. And you do get a sense from Roger as well. What I love most is how Paul and Liz's relationship really was. He's sort of your blueprint to how Paul may have been toward his sister. That Paul and Liz were always fighting, and Liz makes the point that, well, how would you know you were away in college? She goes, I came home for the holidays. So you, by the way, yes, they do celebrate or the holidays in Dark Shadows. You don't see a Christmas tree, but this is what I mean by they celebrate. They make mention of it. That yes, I come home from the for the holidays. So there you go. And they do talk about Christmas present exchange or Christmas card list, stuff like that. That blueprint you get of Paul from Roger, you can tell it's the truth because Liz doesn't deny it. And Liz goes, okay, maybe my marriage wasn't always the best. He goes, yeah, not always the best, right? He goes, we haven't had much luck in that department when it comes to marriage, have we? You know, he know Roger is a realist to a degree. He knows that he hasn't had much success with marriage, haven't hasn't had much success with love, but neither has his sister. And that's another dynamic I love. I think from a character building standpoint, they do a really good job in the Phoenix arc with Roger, him and his sister before Liz gets taken away because she gets the Phoenix makes her fall, uh, collapse, makes her go silent. I mean, this is a supernatural entity using its powers for evil. But before all that happens, and they're talking about Laura, Roger does fill Laura out because Laura is Roger's responsibility. They're still husband and wife, and he makes that known to Laura in front of his sister. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a show for Liz. But the biggest show for Liz is he's not just going to let, uh, at first at least, when they first talk, is let Laura take David. Now that turns around in the second episode, which I love because Roger's like, oh, she's fine, she's fine. This is his, again, Roger is still trying to get rid of David, and they make such a little subtle change in that next episode. And Liz is like, really? Like, no, like, I'm not just going to let her take away. And I like what Roger does. Roger calls out Liz. I know what this is about. He's the last Collins male. He's the heir apparent. You want him for yourself. She goes, it's not that I want to keep David from his mother, but I do want to teach David to be a Collins, a proper Collins. And he goes, I understand that, but you can't keep him from his mother. Again, this is Roger trying to get rid of his son, but he doesn't make bad points. He makes really good ones. Roger Roger argues with Carolyn um, about David, but Carolyn has the same power her mother has. I love how what they do with Nancy Barrett here, her character really well, interactions with Roger. Real quick, they also make her realize, okay, Burke has always been out to hurt my family. This is in that this storyline helps that realization. The way Burke hurts her verbally and basically cuts her to pieces too. I don't care about you. That there, that there. And you could tell it too that Burke is infatuated with Laura. She's he is kind of being possessed a little bit. I don't know, more. I get more seduced than possessed, I would say. Sorry. Roger finally comes around when not right after Dr. Guffrey comes in because he's against it, but slowly but surely they begin to convince him, hey, your son's life is in danger over here with that woman, with Laura. And when he's shown it, when he's confronted with it finally, he caves. He goes, okay, I can't just hand David over to Laura. And that you applaud him for. So that's Roger in the beginning in a nutshell. He doesn't like strangers in the house. And also, too, you got to understand the person who can send him back to prison before Laura's arrival is Sam Evans. Or, sorry, to prison, because Burke Devlin was not driving the car in a manslaughter case charge. Burke was. Laura and Roger lied. Sam never testified because Roger paid him off. The other person who could prove it is Laura. She has no intention of helping Burke. She's just seducing him, like she always has. Burke spent 10 years in prison, was released on good behavior, and made his fortune and has come back to Collinwood to destroy the Collins family, or at least Roger. Read The Count of Monte Cristo. Great book, by the way. I read that in school. Excellent book. Written by my favorite author, Alexander Dumas, who wrote The Three Musketeers, my favorite story. So there you go. Three Musketeers is a lot of fun. The movies and the book, they're really a lot of fun. So I know not every movie's good. That is true. But I like the 1948 version and the 1970s version, and I do like Man in the Iron Mask. Those are my three Musketeer movies that you should watch, for sure. I mentioned the Musketeers in this video, so out of Roger stuff as well. well, to sort of close this, I would say Roger is antagonized, not just by his son who removes his bleeder valve, but by his sister to a degree. And no, this isn't for sympathy for him. It's receipts. They're receipting the character verbally, but he's able to receipt back himself. Like he's able to hold it over Sam's head. Hey, you could go anytime. I'm not stopping you. But Sam doesn't trust Roger, nor does Roger trust Sam, because Sam saw what happened all those years ago with the car. His strange relationship with Sam Evans is interesting, though we know why it's there. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let me know what you guys' thoughts on Roger Collins are. I am going to do some more videos tomorrow. I'm going to do a read-along tomorrow for Tonight Beguile. I'm going to do another Dark Shadows episode here later. You guys have a good day.